Ride the Vibes, a refreshing, fun, and informative experience.
Join Steve Winnie on VoiceTube Studios.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ride the Vibes podcast. This is your host Steve.
And this is your host, Winnie.
We are recording from VoiceTube Studios, and this is our very first episode.
That's right, our very first episode. And if you want to get to know us more, we have our episode 0 where we talk about ourselves.
Yep, it's just a great chance to get to know more about us, and it's really fun and relaxed, so there's no worries about not understanding the context of the conversation.
That's right. But today we are talking about intercultural relationships.
And if you don't know what an intercultural relationship is, we will tell you. Basically, it's just a relationship with two people from different cultures. So maybe it could be an African American dating an Asian, or a white person dating a Hispanic person.
That's right. That's what an intercultural relationship means. Or someone like me, an immigrant, dating someone from Taiwan.
I just want to let you know that we're both in Taiwan right now, but I'm an American. I'm a Caucasian American living in Taiwan.
And I am a Taiwanese. I'm actually a Taiwanese. I was born here, but I grew up in Canada, so I'm like Taiwanese/Canadian, and I now live in Taiwan as well.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Taiwan is a very homogenous country, which means that the entire population is mostly one kind of person.
So, yeah, Taiwan is just very multicultural.
Yeah, so most Taiwanese people are actually from the Han Chinese population. I want to say something like 85 to 95% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
There's also an indigenous population, and I think
The Aboriginals?
And I think only 1 to 3% of the population are actually foreigners, many of who come from China.
Yes. And also, I think during the last 20 years, I think we have more people from the Southeast Asia. Because a lot of the men here are marrying people from the Southeast Asia.
Yes, I've heard about that. A lot of men will date girls from Vietnam.
Because we have a lot of foreign workers from the Southeast Asia, and I actually know a lot of friends whose parents or one of their parents are from the Southeast Asia.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely interesting because it's just so different from the USA, where you can literally find people from pretty much any culture in the world, somewhere in the country, and especially in big cities, you're constantly surrounded by different cultures.
Yeah, it's just like how I visited Toronto this summer. Anywhere you go, you can see Asians, or you can see Hispanic people, or white.
Yep, and I mean, I come from a very white part of the country. I'm from Maine, which is very, very white, because we don't really have any major cities, and we're not a big state in the country. We have a lot of land, but not many people.
So not a lot of immigrants.
Yeah, but that said, you can still definitely see Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, and whites all in the city.
Okay, so you would say that the world is now like a big melting pot, right?
It's getting there. I think that there's been a lot of globalization, and there's still countries like Japan where there's very few immigrants and they don't really take in immigrants, but I think the world is slowly becoming more like that.
All right. So let's talk about our own relationships.
Yeah.
You wanna start with you first?
Yeah. Where do I begin?
Where do you begin? Oh my God.
Playa. No.
Playa?
Yeah. I've actually, when I was in the USA, I only dated other, I guess you call them white girls.
The white girls.
The white girls.
You mean people who speak like, oh my God, something like that?
No, I never did. Those are called valley girls.
Valley girls.
I never dated a valley girl. In the U.S., I had like very artistic, kind of artsy girlfriends who were in art school or really into like music and.
Wow, I wonder what it's like. I've always wanted to date someone who's like really artsy.
It's a very hectic relationship. It's not really grounded. Especially when you're younger, because artistic people, myself included, tend to be we live on the highs and lows of life. So we either feel really, really good, or we just feel like our whole life is crap because we're not making anything that's we're not making anything that we think is valuable.
Okay, now I know how I've been feeling. Maybe I myself, am a very artistic person or like an artsy person because I feel that all the time.
Yeah. It's kind of like you live really high with your successes, but you feel your failures and things you perceive to be your failures really hard.
Yeah. So you were saying you dated this white girl And that was when you were in the States.
Yeah, when I was in the States, until I was 25, and I only had white girlfriends up to that point.
Mm-hmm. And then after 25, you moved to
South Korea.
South Korea. So what about the relationships there in South Korea?
I was in South Korea for 2 years. I only dated one girl, and yeah, I think that it's interesting when you come to East Asia because there's two kinds of girls, really.
Mm-hmm.
The girls here, when it comes to foreigners, there's some girls literally never want to date a foreigner. They want nothing to do with dating foreigners. They would rather just date their own, date within their own culture.
But why is that? Why do you think is happening?
Well, I think it's just a matter of them feeling more comfortable within their own culture.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't have as much exposure to English. Maybe they feel more comfortable, and maybe they have more. The parents might be more involved. Maybe I think there's a lot of reasons. I couldn't say exactly why, but do you think that do you see being Taiwanese if there's a population of girls or boys that really have no interest in dating foreigners?
Well, I know a few people who they just don't have any interest in dating foreign people, but I think most of the people I know, I'm not being stereotypical or something, but most of them are from the south of Taiwan. I think a lot of the people from, where I live in Taipei right now, a lot of them want to date foreigners, or maybe it's because my friends are all, what they called ABC.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them speak English, and most of them are sort of like what we called more like a North American culture type of person. So they want to date foreign people.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just want to emphasize, I don't think it's bad because I think that I have a lot of friends in my hometown that would only feel comfortable dating within their culture. I think it's just easier, and you have a lot more in common to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the advantage. But I was going to say, there's another type of girl who I've encountered that really only want to date foreigners. They've almost kind of gone and they've sort of like fallen in love with a different culture. I think they've definitely been influenced by probably American culture more than anything. And I think that there's definitely girls I've met that only date foreigners.
Yeah, well, I would want to call myself as a person who only date like foreigners, but that's because I grew up in Canada. I sort of identify myself as like a North American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it would be kind of hard to classify your relationships as cultural or intercultural.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's quite hard for me to sort of meet foreigners in Taiwan. I mean, it's not that hard because I do go out and party and stuff.
Yeah,
I do meet a lot of
do.
foreigners, but most foreigners I meet are straight. You know what I mean? But I'm not straight.
Right, yeah. So I guess we're gonna get back to that in a minute because But I will say that when I was in South Korea, my girlfriend was one of those girls. She told me she would never date a Korean guy.
Oh, why?
She thought that
people around the world are crazy about Korean people, right? The K-pop and thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. This is a little controversial, but I feel like in Korea, the men just have a lot of control, and their culture is still very traditional.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that she didn't want to fit into that culture where you get married when you're like 28, you have a baby when you're 30, and you become like a housewife. She just wasn't looking for that kind of life. And I think that she saw dating a Westerner or dating someone from a different culture as being a little bit more free and open.
I think this is like a change of like a family concept, because I know a lot of people, or in the past I know with my parents' generation, a lot of them, they just want to graduate and get married and have a family.
Yeah.
But I think people nowadays they focus more on themselves, right?
Yeah, I think that we're more likely to get higher education with university, and we end up with a lot more debt to begin with. I think there's so many things we think about before marriage now that the culture has definitely changed, because my parents are that same exact way. My dad was 26 when he had me, and my mom was 24 when I was born. So that's really young compared to like our generation right now.
Yeah, I think most people don't want to have a child until like after 30.
Yeah, it's getting kind of crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that right now I have a Taiwanese girlfriend, and she is not the same as my Korean ex. Like, my Taiwanese girlfriend has had Taiwanese boyfriends before, and she's much more okay with dating foreigners or Taiwanese people. Yeah, but that's my experience so far, and now that you mentioned yours a little bit, let's cut more into your side of the relationship experience.
Well, I am currently 25, and I have to say, I have to like emphasize the fact that I've been single for the past 8 years.
Oh, eight?
Freaking
I thought you were going to
years.
say 8 months.
No, not 8 months, man. 8 years. So in my entire life, I've only dated this one girl. I was in a almost 3 year relationship with her. She's Taiwanese, and I do feel like there's we fight a lot. We have conflicts all the time, and sometimes I think about it. I think it's because we're too different. Like, I prefer speaking English, but she doesn't really speak English, and sometimes we have different values.
Okay, I mean, that's interesting because you're fluent in Chinese as well, but you found it hard to be in a relationship just speaking Chinese?
Sometimes I feel like there are words that are easier said in English. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like it's more romantic to say things in English. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. I mean, I think the language barrier is a huge obstacle for most interracial couples. But I think the second half of this is a little bit maybe more interesting. So what did you find challenging with your value system? You said she valued different things than you did.
Yeah, well, she thinks that maybe it's a personality thing. I don't know. She thinks that if I'm dating her, then I should like dedicate all my time to her. But I feel like it's very important to also focus on yourself and focus on your career goals. Even though I was like, I don't know, 13. No, I wasn't that young. I was 15. 15 to 17, I was dating this girl. And I sort of want to focus on making more friends and focus on my interests. But she doesn't agree with me. She feels like we have to spend all the time together.
Yeah, I don't think that will work. I think in those situations, and I can relate to this because me and my present girlfriend have this same problem to some extent, is that you need to make a compromise. So you need to find a way to let yourself get closer to them while they also try to give you more space. And that's a really, really hard balance to find, especially you were a teenager, and I think teenagers tend to struggle with relationships in general.
Maybe I was just too young, but yeah, I just want to let people know that if you're currently dating someone, it's very important that you focus on yourself as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you don't focus on yourself at all, I think that there's a danger that if you ever break up or stuff goes wrong, that you will maybe lack confidence or not have the ability to recover on your own when you need to.
Yeah, and one thing is that because I'm a girl dating another girl, and of course, most of my friends are girls, so then she gets all like jealous and stuff. I think, I think that's what people should know is that, when you're dating a girl and she has like more girlfriends or like friends that are girls, you got to give them space and, more trust.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, really hard, especially I think with girls in Asia. My girlfriend in Asia doesn't really like me hanging out with any other girls, period.
Yeah. I think maybe that is a cultural thing.
It might be to some extent. I mean, it's not like Western girls are going to be super happy if you're spending a lot of time with other girls, especially one-on-one. But I think in our culture in the U.S., it's more normal to have platonic relationships with just like a man and a girl that are just friends that will never date or never have sex.
Yeah, that's true. Platonic relationship or love is a type of close relationship that is non-romantic. That means guys and girls can just be friends. That is possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have some old friends from high school and university that are females, and I would have no issue hanging out with them one-on-one. It wouldn't be weird. But all right, since we both have experience dating Western and Asian peoples, let's talk about these two cultures on a more wide scale, like just some of the maybe stereotypes or some of the more generalities. Not really stereotypes, some of the more general information.
You want to start with the Western?
Yeah, so I would say let's talk about the amount of time it takes to date. So Westerners, I think, take a longer time to start a relationship. In my experience, it almost seems like we have a trial period where you're testing the other person and seeing if they're a good match.
I think that's pretty cool. It's like starting out as friends. Get to know this person more. But for Asians, I think, at least for, not my friends, a lot of the people I know, but they're not my friends. I feel like they sort of feel like if they see someone that they like, or if they meet someone that, they have feelings for, they kind of just feel like they just assume that they have to date. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so they're more willing to take a chance, I guess.
Or maybe they just want people to be in a romantic relationships with them. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily want to start as friends. They want to just like cut straight to the part where they start dating as like a couple.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I think that this is a difference in mentality. As Westerners, we have this really strong idea that we need to find someone who matches us really well. So even if we get along with someone, maybe we say, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this person, even though I really like them, so I'm not going to date them. Whereas in Asia, I feel like you're more open towards starting a relationship with someone you're not completely sure about, and you're willing to work more to make that relationship succeed.
Well, that was the old me, but this year, this year, I don't know, something changed. I don't know, maybe a bus hit me or something. I feel like before I just want to date people who I really like, but now I feel like I should get to know these people more before I think about going into a relationship with them.
Yeah, I think that's the way I look at it too. I definitely would not be going into a relationship after meeting someone like 2 times.
Yeah. Well, how about family? You know, sometimes when you date someone and your family don't really like them, you have to break up with them. At least this is what my family is like.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my family's never really disliked one of my ex-girlfriends. In fact, they didn't know why I broke up with my last American girlfriend when I was there. They said, "Oh, she's so nice. She's so cute. Why would you break up with her?" So, I mean, I think the family in the West is pretty hands-off unless maybe it depends. It really depends on who it is. But my parents don't really care who I date. It's more my decision. And as long as she's not like a really bad person or a criminal or something, I think they're okay with it.
I think, you know, the interesting part between the Western and the Asian type of relationship is that if you're maybe like a Westerner, you'd be more willing to bring your girlfriend home, right? And to like introduce them to your parents and stuff. But I think in Asia, if you bring your boyfriend or girlfriend home, that usually means this is a serious relationship and you're about to get married.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, you know more than I do about that, but I definitely know in the West it's probably a little bit more casual, like you said.
Yeah. At least for me, I don't think I'll ever sort of like bring my partner home and show my parents because I'm pretty sure they're not going to be okay with it.
Yeah, that's due. I mean, I guess your parents are a little bit more conservative.
Definitely, they definitely are. A lot of the older generation, they still have this concept that I don't want to say like homosexual, but this is something that they still couldn't really accept.
Yeah, I mean, in the West, it's kind of a big problem too with certain, especially people that are religious. You find people that are more like Christian or hold more conservative values. They tend to be less open with homosexuality.
Yeah, but basically to conclude, if your parents don't really like your partner, at least in Asia, there's a really, really high chance of breaking up.
Yeah, I mean, that's really crazy because I've never even thought about my parents when I dated in the West. All right, well, let's talk about the ways that flirting differs between the West and Asia, because flirting in the West is really, it can be very confusing. And I feel like we're much more into like wordplay. Like you need to be funny, you need to kind of like entertain the other person.
Yep.
And that also might show that you're intelligent. And I feel like in Asia, it's so much more straightforward. It's like, I like you. Oh, you like me? Let's date.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely like that. But I think I'm more of a Western person when it comes to the flirting game. Because I do love playing mind games. Like, my flirting game, I would say I wouldn't say I'm manipulative, but I would do things and say things to get the girl's attention.
Okay, so you mean you would be the first one to approach them?
Yeah, well, no, actually. I want to make sure that this girl or guy is at least interested in me. And if I'm certain that at least he has a little bit or she has a little bit of interest in me, I would start playing games. I would start doing things and saying things to get their attention.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm actually a little bit more... I like to play it more cool, I think. It's more my style just to be casual and sort of just like... But I have that side of me that plays it too cool. Like, I think I have to pretend like I don't care about the other person that much. It's sort of like built into my Western mind. I'm like, oh, I really like this girl. So I got to kind of like pretend like I'm like really busy and have all this stuff going on and I have all these cool friends and I don't need to pay attention to this person.
Yeah, I know that because I do that sometimes as well. Like, but I think it has something to do with self-consciousness. or like insecurities, because I feel like, oh, what if I show you that I like you, but then you don't like me back? What if I mess things up? Because we're really good as friends, but I want to move on to the next stage. But what if you don't like me as like a lover or something?
You're friend zoned.
Yeah, I'm like super friend zoned. I've been friend zoned in the past 8 years.
I have too. I've been friend zoned. It definitely sucks. And once you get friend zoned, there's no way out.
I know.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up with a final topic. And this is going to be the bias people have towards multicultural relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do people in Taiwan or the USA, do they have a problem with multicultural relationships, or are they pretty accepting of them? So, Winnie, what do you think about Taiwan?
I think in Taiwan, a lot of the girls who are dating foreign guys, I think people would think that they just want a better life, or maybe they want to move to somewhere else, because a lot of the times that is the case. So people still feel like, oh, if you're dating a foreigner, that's only because you want to go somewhere else, or that's only because you're the leftovers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although I think that there tends to be a natural curiosity when it comes to like exotic things. Like, I think that Westerners, we tend to think Asian girls are very exotic and like very like beautiful and sort of more, I guess, feminine and more passionate and caring than some Western girls are.
That's definitely true. I think the girls, Asian girls, they're pretty tender and gentle in general. Whereas some of the Westerners, like the Western girls that I know, are like more tough. They would stick to what they believe. They would stand up for themselves. But I think that is the opposite in Asia.
Yeah, not always. I think it is changing. But yeah, girls in my home, like main girls, are pretty much as tough as the guys. They wear the same clothes. They do the same things. They can go fishing. They can go hiking. They all work. They don't want to be housewives in general.
Well, I like girls like that.
So maybe you should come to Maine.
I should move to Maine. I would definitely want to move to Maine. And you were speaking about how I was speaking about how some of the girls are left over, and then you were saying how Western guys, they think that Asian girls are beautiful. There's a thing in Taiwan, a lot of the people say that. How come there's always this good-looking Western guy dating this not-so-very good-looking Asian girl? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, but we actually look at it the exact opposite, and we look at it basically as like, wow, how did this like really unattractive Western guy end up with this really beautiful Asian girl? So I think that there's this thing going on where maybe Westerners don't understand Asian beauty standards very well, and Asians don't understand Western beauty standards very well.
Yeah, I think that it's because people have different beauty standards,
Yeah, like the kind of girls that Western guys like might be completely different than who the Taiwanese guys would consider beautiful.
I think the Taiwanese guys would consider girls beautiful when they have like a pale skin, or when they're skinny. But I think for Westerners, they like girls who are fit.
Yeah, I don't like super skinny girls, and I think girls with bigger hips and more of a body are generally more attractive.
Yeah, but I think it has changed because people are looking more into like a fitness and health. So a lot of the girls in Taiwan, they work out, and their body type is very toned right now. Yeah.
But I think it's the same thing when it comes to guys. I think that a lot of people in Asia tend to think like skinny people are kind of attractive. So like tall, skinny guys tend to do very well in Asia, whereas Western girls may not like that look as much. They might want a guy who has more muscles, a guy who's a bit more wider. All right, well, that's all the time we have today, guys. We hope you really liked the episode, and feel free to leave your comments and suggestions. We're going to put our contact information in the description of the episode.
Yes, make sure you leave a comment and tell us what you think, so maybe next time you can hear the topic that you like being talked about.
Yeah, definitely. We're very open for suggestions, and this will be a weekly podcast, so look out for future episodes.
And of course, there's more to talk about intercultural relationships. We might be able to talk about it in the future, so please make sure to stay tuned.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ride the Vibes. We're happy you enjoyed the show. We want to take our conversations around the world to reach more listeners. It would be totally awesome if you could like, share, and subscribe.
please turn on the notification bell so you won't miss a single episode. And definitely get in contact with us if you have anything you want us to talk about in the future. See you next time, and once again, thanks for listening.